have a special guest tonight by the name of Samantha Harris. And we're going to be bringing her on in just a second. And Samantha was kind enough to accept our invitation to come on tonight and talk about, this whole experience of, narcissism, sociopathy, like just the whole thing, the whole cluster B thing. She has a YouTube channel, and, that's how I discovered her. And, she discusses her experience, and then we're going to have her discuss her experience with you guys tonight for the ones who haven't already seen her YouTube video, which her link is created in the description of the link for the show. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and bring the lady of the hour on, Samantha. Samantha, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. Thank you guys for having me on tonight. I'm very flattered.
We're flattered to have you. You're doing some big things over there, man. You're getting some nice little reviews and numbers on YouTube. And something about you gravitates people to you. People want to listen to you. You have a voice. So there's something about you that draws people in.
Thank you.
So,
I try to relate to people, and I think that's something a lot of people are looking for, especially after going through, a traumatic experience like personality disorder traumas, and so they kind of look for help, and I think that video I made kind of helped people in that way.
Yeah, I know it did. And when I was sitting there listening to it, I'm like, yup. And the last
Check mark, yep.
The last time we had, a male guest on, and he got to give the experience of what it's like for the men to go through this.
Right.
So we got to talk about stuff like how people don't really pay attention to when a man is being, mentally and psychologically abused.
Right.
And all of that, And I'm so glad we have you on now because you get we already heard the man's perspective. Now, we definitely need to hear the woman's perspective because women suffer from this type of mental and psychological abuse from men as well. And, what we want to do is just kind of have you go ahead and kind of tell your story, like your story, what your experience was like, what was that relationship like, and, how you got to a point where you started spreading awareness.
Right. And that's such a good point, Tay, you made, too, is that some people on the YouTube channel thought that it was a video about hating on guys, and that's not it at all. This happens to men and women and even children who are raised by personality disordered parents, like narcissists or sociopaths. And so this really can affect everybody, and it's really common. And unfortunately, it's not talked about that much in our society, which is a shame. So thanks to you guys, we have shows like this where bringing awareness, real talk about it, which I appreciate. I've had, like at least 2 different experiences with somebody close to me that had a personality disorder. And you know what they say with our dating lives, it kind of reflects what we've learned from our parents, right? And this is before kind of everything came out with my own personal issue, I guess, with my own father with sociopathy. But prior to that, I had dated a guy that very much so reflected the characteristics or traits of my dad that I wasn't even aware of. So that's one thing for people to keep in mind is that be aware of who you're attracting and what kind of signals or messages are you sending out and what are you accepting as your normal, because that really is telltale type signs about, what you were raised with and what you kind of were used to. But, I dated a guy for almost 4 years. We kind of had like a pseudo marriage. I was manipulated and kind of brainwashed in ways over the years. And the way that sociopaths and narcissists tend to work, but specifically sociopaths, is that they work under a facade or like a mask, so to speak. And sometimes it can be very soon until they reveal their true selves, or it can go on for years. And in my case, it lasted about 2 years until he kind of took that mask off and I saw the real person. At that point, I had already purchased a house based on his commute to work and really reorganized my entire life around him and providing for him. But I got kind of manipulated into providing financially, shelter, all sorts of different things. In terms of the abuse, it started with something like simple, like little snide comments, or I guess like passive-aggressive things, like, hey, baby, maybe you need to lose some weight, or maybe don't eat those cookies, or something like that when I was already extremely slender at that time. But it plants a little thought in the back of your head, and so you're like, well maybe I am overweight, what's wrong with me? And we instantly start to, overanalyze ourselves and, pick away at ourselves. And eventually it got to the point where he was doing all sorts of things like serial cheating, really promiscuous type sex stuff, putting my health and body in danger, and making excuses because I quote unquote was overweight, but I wasn't. And so there was all these different excuses and weird abusive things I had to deal with. And one time I really needed to go to the emergency room, and he refused to take me because he had to get up for work in the morning. And so I had to call my mother, who was about 45 minutes to an hour away, to come get me. And at the time, that seemed like normal. That seemed perfectly acceptable. But looking back on it, you're like, what the heck was I thinking? Stuff like
That's
that.
Crazy.
Right. Basic human needs. And so eventually I became so isolated from my family and friends. And that's typical of sociopaths, but less so of narcissists. But eventually, I think out of the 3+ years while I was at Michigan State University, I think I went out and saw my friends maybe 5 to 8 times. And it seemed normal, but it was like I would get guilt tripped if I wanted to socialize or leave the house or go do something, and different experiences like that. So eventually they use guilt and manipulation to control you. And oftentimes you're made to feel sorry for that person. And with sociopaths, they typically draw in people who are empathic or have a big heart, somebody that gives a shirt off their back to help you, things like that, a really caring person. And sociopaths look for those types of people because they're a prime target, and they are easy to manipulate because empaths are so moved and motivated by their feelings and emotions and compassion for others. And so that's kind of how it all started for me. I didn't know if you want me to go into more details or
by all means, please, break it all down.